I, female 41, am an accountant and run a successful firm. I am quite well off, and since I'm not married and don't have children, I have set up trust funds to my brother's, male 43, 3 children, and my best friend's daughter. I have a younger sister, female 34, who also has 3. I have not set up anything for her children, and here's why. When I was 25, happily married, I went through some ordeal, and my sister moved in with my then husband and me to take care of me. A month later, I found out she and my husband were hooking up. He left me later for her. I moved in with my brother and his then girlfriend, now wife. They had turned their attic into a small suite where I lived, rent-free, for 3 years. I finally pulled myself together and started working and built up my business. What made me hate my sister and her offspring so much was that I overheard her when she was caring for me, telling my then husband, yeah, like anybody in their right mind would believe that somebody wanted to roofie her, and they were laughing. I am not physically attractive, I might add. That comment destroyed me more than the fact she was sleeping with my husband, or that she proceeded to breed with him. She didn't believe me. She repeated what my attackers were telling. I haven't seen or spoken to her ever since. It has been over 15 years now. I have never seen her brats either. My mother called me the other day pleading on her behalf that I should forgive her now, that the children are innocent, and I'm very conflicted now between immense guilt that I maybe am playing favorites here and immense hatred to my sister and, in extension, her brats. Any advice? P.S. Sister is, of what I've heard, the one who truly would use some financial help. You already gave her your husband. Now she wants your money? You've already been more than generous enough. She made her bed, or rather your bed. Now she has to lie in it. The kids, who are literal strangers to you in the first place, can ask their mom why they don't get a trust fund. I thought that I would answer some of the questions and make a little update about something that happened yesterday. My dad is still alive, but I haven't seen him in almost 15 years. Mom said he couldn't face it all. My brother supported me and paid for everything until I started working again. It took me 3 years to pull myself together. Sister-in-law took leave of absence to stay with me the first year, so my brother had to work extra shifts to support us. My best friend, who passed away 2 years ago, is the one who got me my first assignment. She convinced her company to hire me, and it took off from there. Her daughter is 15 now and lives with my brother since her grandparents are very old and her father is out of the picture. I couldn't let her live with me since I'm not sure how to take care of people. Yes, I do believe my sister was a victim as well. She was assigned to take care of me when she was a kid herself. Maybe she didn't want to believe because it was easier, or maybe she really didn't believe me. She adopted the innocent until proven guilty bull, and since none of them was convicted, she thought she was on the right. Sometimes I want to call and ask why she doesn't believe me and try to make her. I know it wouldn't change her mind. Many think that I'm being harsher on my sister than my ex-husband. Got a lot of "it takes two to tango" messages. No, I don't blame him more for the affair because she was 17 or 18 at the time, and he was the adult. I just haven't spared him a thought or an emotion since the divorce. He also, unlike my sister, believed me. My ex-husband is an alcoholic, and he and my sister suffered financially because of that. I know nothing about her current husband more than that he's the father of her youngest. My parents are very poor and couldn't support my sister financially, and it's one of the ongoing conflicts we have. That I'm selfish for not helping, but I have never cared to do more than when it's really urgent, like paying off their mortgage when Dad got laid off and his medical bills after his strokes. Other than that, I haven't felt the need to improve their situation. Yes, I know I'm being unfair for calling the kids brats, etc. I'm just being honest about how I truly view them, and I have already stated that they're innocent and don't deserve the hate I harbor towards them. Now the update. My communication with Mom, or anyone else for that matter, except brother, sister-in-law, and a few friends, is to let it go to voicemail and listen later. And text back. Yesterday I called her directly and told her that I'm not going to give my sister's offspring anything and that they could just stop trying because there's no hope. She went mad and started yelling. This time, I did not hang up. I let her rant and call me all the usual, bitter, jealous, vindictive, blah blah blah. She told me she couldn't understand how I could be so heartless and that the brats are technically my kids. I asked her what she meant, and she answered that if I didn't choose to get rid of my baby, they would be half siblings. I forgot to mention that I was pregnant at the time and had a termination because I was in no state to have a child. I realized that, alas, hanging up when she started yelling was the right attitude. I told her I finally understood why Dad and she resented me. She started to panic, explain herself, but I thanked her for finally being honest with me and hung up. I know my parents saw me as damaged goods and that they felt repulsed by me, but now I think I even know why. Instead of caring for me themselves, they dumped the burden on my little teenage sister. I don't know what to make of it. I didn't think I could hate them more than I already did, but somehow I do. I know they're deeply religious, but how can they hate me for something I had no power over? I, 46 male, am one of 4 kids. My older brother, P, 48 male, I think, who I no longer have any contact with. My younger brother, J, who is no longer with us. And my youngest sister, K, 44 female. Recently, P's children, 2 girls and 1 boy, all in their late teens and early 20s, reached out to me and expressed a desire to have a relationship. I have 0 contact with their father and swore that I would beat him black and blue if I ever saw him again. A little background. My oldest brother P was always the golden child. No matter what he did, my parents always had an excuse for why it was not his fault. Bad grade? Teacher had it out for him. Cheating on every single one of his relationships. Good thing you did it to her before she did it to you. That one was my personal favorite. He also used to torment Jay and I constantly when we were smaller than him, until in high school, when I hit a growth spurt and sprung up to about 6'4" and 230 pounds worth of muscle. After that, I became the typical jock type. Played football, partied, bunch of friends, etc. Well, my younger brother Jay didn't get as lucky and stayed pretty small and scrawny throughout high school and college, only getting up to about 5'8" and didn't have a super active social life. Despite the difference in our schooling experience, I was always very protective of Jay, especially since we were always having to put up with P's BS, which stopped once he realized I could pound him into the ground and not break a sweat, as he was also a lot smaller than me at only 5'10". Not much to say about Kay. She was a great younger sister, and P didn't dare mess with her or he would incur the wrath of our mother. So, in the late 90s, Jay met his first real girlfriend, A, and was over the moon about her. He spent every spare moment with her, and when he wasn't with her, he would do nothing but gush about her. I had never seen him so happy. Well, one day, he comes to us, all smiles, and announces that A is pregnant and they are expecting. The mood quickly turned, however, when a week later, it came out that A had been cheating on J for the duration of their relationship with our older brother P. This broke my brother. And of course, P, being the golden crap that he is, didn't even get a disappointed glance from our parents. To this day, I have never seen someone look so broken as Jay had looked the last time I saw him. I believe his heartache was only compounded by the fact that my parents basically told him to get over it and be happy for our brother. Well, about a week after this revelation came to light, Jay took his own life. I had never been so sad and angry at the same time in my entire life. Sad that I would never see my brother again, and the pure rage of knowing that this was my brother and parents' fault. During the funeral, P walked in with A, and I saw red. Thankfully, I had other family there to stop me from doing anything stupid, but I told P that if I ever saw him again, I would K him. Shortly after that, I cut contact with 90% of my family, with the exception of Kay and a cousin I had always been close with, because everyone except them wanted to make excuses for my parents and P. Fast forward to present. I never had any kids, and truth be told, I never wanted any. I much prefer the role of the fun uncle. Kay met a great guy and had 2 daughters, who I absolutely adore. P had 2 more kids with A before cheating on her, shocker, and splitting, and I've never met any of them. My parents have tried to make contact a handful of times, but I always told them to kick rocks. So last week I'm chatting with Kay's daughters, 19 and 17, and they mentioned that their cousins have wanted to meet me for a long time and were hoping I would be willing to meet them as well. I don't believe they know anything that transpired between their dad and I, but I would be lying if I said I never had any desire to meet them. So, everyone, I'm hoping to crowdsource any ideas, suggestions on how I maintain a relationship with P's kids while also keeping him and A out of my life. Any suggestions are welcome. Edit 2. I've had multiple people ask me why K still talks with the people I cut contact with. Even though my sister was just as crushed about Jay's death as I was and was angry for a long time, she and her then boyfriend, future husband, hit a financial rough patch after graduating college and were forced to move in with our parents. Due to unrelated drama at the time, they couldn't stay with me. So my sister stayed with them for several years, and over that time, their relationship improved. And even though I wasn't thrilled at the time, I understood. She still doesn't really have a relationship with P, but is cordial if they meet. I don't blame her, because our parents did a lot for her and daughters love their cousins. So I didn't want her in that kind of position of choosing. I think this situation needs to be handled with care. I don't think there's any harm in meeting them, but you do need to be clear with them that you have no intention of seeing or interacting with their father. From your earlier comment, it sounds like the kids are all adults, but since they're still living with their father, it might be best to hold off on the specifics of why you won't talk with their dad until they're a bit more independent. Your brother definitely sounds like the type that would blame you for turning his kids against him, and knowing the truth could make their lives more difficult while they're still under his roof. I'm a biracial woman, born to a white father and an Indian mother. My grandparents never approved of my father, and as a result, always had a cold relationship with him. Growing up, I was a happy kid with two loving parents. My father divorced my mother when she became pregnant with their second child. I was 8 years old. My father remarried weeks later. Till I was 11, I had visitation with my father on alternating weeks. When my brother was 3 years old, he passed away from complications arising from a congenital heart defect, which went undetected. Right around the same time, my stepmother became pregnant. My mother didn't take the news of her pregnancy well and basically sold off all of her belongings in the US and moved to the UK. She's British born, without telling my father. I was grieving the loss of my brother and didn't question my mother's decision to relocate. My mother remarried an Indian man when I was 14. During the time I was in the UK, my father came down to visit me with his wife and kid 4 times a year. I knew that what my mother did was illegal, but I begged my father to not take my mother to court over it. My mother hated my father and never got over their divorce and the loss of my brother. I'm 25 now, currently residing in the US, all set to get married to my boyfriend of 3 years. Recently, I got a Facebook message from my father thanking me for giving our relationship a second chance. He thanked me for inviting him and his family to my wedding and told me that he couldn't wait to see his little girl walk down the aisle. They already got the flight tickets. He also sent me some pictures over email. They were pictures of my half-sister wearing an Indian outfit they bought for my wedding. My dad bought himself an Indian wear and sent me pictures of him wearing it. I didn't know how to respond and immediately called up my cousin, who was the one sending out the invites as per the list I gave her. She told me that she assumed there was a mistake in the list, and that's why she went ahead and sent out the invite herself. We had a big fallout over it. I never wanted to invite him or his family, knowing how uncomfortable my mother would get. I then sent a long Facebook message explaining that him getting the invite was a mistake, and I actually didn't want him at the wedding. My father was really hurt, and then sent a reply saying that my grandparents on my father's side were very happy that I was finally opening up to my father. He had already told all of his friends and colleagues that he was taking off from work for the wedding. My half-sister was really excited about attending an Indian wedding. I feel kind of crappy about the whole situation now. Should I have just let them come over and hurt my mom in the process? Am I the a-hole? Many people in the comments are asking if my father cheated on my mother. The answer is yes, he did. My stepmother was the other woman. And no, I never really wanted him at my wedding. That's why his name wasn't on the guest list. Also, she took off to the UK after my brother passed away because she was totally alone without a support network to deal with her grief. No family to fall back on. My father's family tossed my mom aside once he remarried. She couldn't take it after she got to know that my stepmother was pregnant. My father would never let her move to the UK. That's why she kidnapped me and left. And yes, we were both happier in the UK. I don't fault my mom for leaving and empathize more with her pain over the loss of my brother because my father never wanted my brother. He wanted my mother to terminate him. At the end, he got what he wanted. My brother didn't make it past the age of 3. I think you've been judged really harshly on here. Your father cheated on and abandoned your mother whilst she was pregnant. This was after she had cut off her family, most people's main support network, because they didn't accept him. And then, out of the blue, your brother dies 3 years later. And I'm assuming that she was either in the room when your brother died or was the one who discovered he had passed away, which is obviously going to be extremely painful and distressing. And your stepmother gets pregnant right around the same time. Of course your mother was going to be upset and bitter about the situation. She lost her husband and her son, and her now ex was having a baby right after hers had passed away with the woman she lost him to. I can totally understand why, having lost so much, she wanted to return home to her family, to her support network, to have them help her through the rough time. And your father probably would have refused to let you move, thus trapping your mother in a place full of bad memories, without a nearby large support network. I get why she didn't tell him. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but I get it. And yes, your father lost a child too, and no doubt found that loss extremely painful. But he at least had someone to support him, stepmother, and something to look forward to, the birth of his new child, which could have given him the strength to keep going forward during that painful time. I don't know what your mother has said to you over the years about your father, but even if you hadn't been told anything negative, chances are you'd still be closer to your mother and not have as positive an opinion of your father as you do her. And this is because he had an affair, broke up your family, and no doubt caused brother, you, and your mother upset, misery, confusion, and pain. Cheating is an a-hole move, particularly when your wife is pregnant. So dad is definitely an a-hole for that. And you're not an a-hole for not wanting him there. You say it's because it would upset your mother. But I do wonder if, subconsciously, him leaving affected you more than you thought, and it's coloring your actions now. Again, it's your decision, and I wouldn't blame you for not wanting him there. Ultimately, I'm going to go not the a-hole, with cousin being a slight a-hole.